Just posting that we're starting. Hey everyone, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed, the television edition, back after a brief hiatus last week.
Just a small one.
Just a small one. Well, I am Irish. Welcome everyone, I am Matt Connarton. To my right, of course, is Chris Rose,
Hello, everyone.
host of VE on Sunday nights, and also We'll Let It Large, co-host on We'll Let It Large Gone Global.
I'm all over the
Friday
place.
nights here on QCnews.com and IPMNation.com. And joining us to our left is Glenn R.J. Willett, the man who is now
The
approaching
man
the
who cannot
camera.
sit.
The man who does everything.
The man who does everything.
Including driving us crazy.
Yes,
Well, someone's got to do it.
It's true.
that's right. That's right.
Remember,
So,
I get things done.
Glenn, before we get into it, we have a big event tomorrow night. I'm sorry, not tomorrow night. It's only Wednesday. Friday night.
Yes, we do.
Here in Manchester, New Hampshire, or New Hampshire, as you say. Do you want to tell us about that? Because you know more about it than any of the three
Actually,
of
we
us.
should be telling our viewers that We'll Let It Large will start an hour earlier this Friday. So I'm hoping that one of you will be there to co-host. We're going to be doing We'll Let It Large, a short version, 1 hour from 7 to 8 p.m. And then for 5 minutes, get off the air to reschedule our new event. And our special event that night will be at Shastine's from 8:15 to 1:15. We'll be on the air
Okay.
with one break,
Eastern Daylight Time.
because you know we're only allowed to do 3 hours at a time, and then we're cut off. So we're gonna shut it off, and
Because the government doesn't want us on the air.
That's right. Stupid government.
and we'll just reboot and get back on for another 3 hours. So we'll do it in 2 episodes. We're also going to be going Saturday to Providence, Rhode Island, to do the Gay Pride Festival and Parade.
And
And
you can say that because Lionel's not here.
You don't think you have conservative viewers on your show?
Well, I know you don't.
Matt
on this,
Connarton?
I really doubt it.
Going wild, unleashed.
Oh, maybe that's a better name. We should call it. Well, no, if we called it.
It's Glenn Goes Wild.
Yeah.
It's the Friday night show.
Is that
If
what
we
it is?
if we called the show Gone Wild, I'd have to pull my shirt up every few.
You know,
few
we had a
minutes.
good show last week. We had by the end of we actually went 2.5 hours.
Oh, Friday night on
Yeah,
the Let It Large. Yes.
And we had a full schedule. It took the whole 2.5 hours. And we did pretty well. We had 1,125 viewers in those 2.5 hours. And so far today, as of now, we have about 97 viewers who have viewed it since Saturday. One of our highest marks. So we need to continue doing shows like that are compact, and we had such a variety on Friday.
Yes.
It was definitely
Our
a variety
youngest,
feel to
our
it.
youngest guest was 14, and our oldest guest was 96. 92, I'm sorry. So that's pretty good.
I wanted to, on a sort of a personal note, give a little shout out to Phil Griazzo, who was nice enough to. I wasn't feeling well Friday night, as you guys know, and I had to go outside to get some air. And Phil was nice enough to come and hang out outside with me while I wasn't feeling well,
Oh, he needed beer too.
and didn't want. Well, but he didn't want to come back in until he knew I was okay. So
Well,
that
that
was
was nice
I
of
thought
him.
that was nice of him. So Phil's a good guy. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. But also, Glenn, I wanted to talk about tomorrow night because we have a lot of viewers here locally in Manchester who
Yes.
might want to come to the Shas skiing.
Yes, they opened at 8.
They open at
Well,
8.
they're open before that, but the
Yes.
back room opens at 8.
Yeah, so if you're in the area, or even if you're out of the area and you want to travel, it's not like gas is expensive or anything.
It's not like that. It is coming down.
It is coming down. Exactly my point.
I've
So
seen it $3.39.
trying to see the glass is half full, people. Come on down to the Shas skiing. Do you know the address, Glenn? It's right on Elm Street here in Manchester.
Right across from City Hall.
Across from City
forget
Hall?
The address.
That's all right. You can find it. It's right on Elm Street. The
Shas
Shas skiing.
You can't miss it.
You can't miss it. So come on down. Come see us. We'll be there.
And I will say that on I believe it's Friday the 29th, June 29th, we'll be celebrating our 8th month on the air.
Yes.
Has it been 8 months? Wow.
We're now crawling. We're getting ready to walk.
Soon.
Very soon, I will say that we are negotiating for a 5,000 to 6,000 square feet place, so we are growing. And when that happens, hopefully in the fall, we will be producing between 40 and 60 shows a week.
So we really are growing.
We are definitely growing. We're going to outpace the public access channel, and of course we are the People's Network,
Yes.
QC News.
Yes.
in IPM Nation.
That's right.
Rock on.
Yes. Rock on with your bad selves. Well, no,
Mhm.
we're the bad selves,
We
really.
are the bad selves.
Yeah, never mind.
So
I
we'll
love
be
it.
able to cook. We'll be able to have dances.
I don't cook or
be
dance.
Able, well, that's something we do. We'll
Oh,
be able
good,
to
'cause
have
I can't.
bands. We do play.
I dance like Eddie Murphy's
We'll
impression
be
of
able
white
to do
people dancing.
contests like dancing with your partner. If you can't have Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
And we were talking about doing in the spring a New England superstar, like an idol.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it takes a year or two to grow the business. So,
Don't worship false American idols. God doesn't like
That's what
that.
I've heard.
Yes.
and so I shouldn't be worshiping you because you are a false American idol.
There's nothing
He's an
false
American
about me.
treasure.
Yes.
Pardon?
He's an American treasure. There's a
Oh
difference.
well.
I'm a Z-list celebrity,
There's nothing
damn
false about that.
it. No, there isn't. I occasionally Google myself specifically because it makes me feel famous.
Oh, I do too.
Do you?
Oh, you're talking about actually looking up.
I
the
actually
name.
Googling myself,
Got it.
yes. But
No.
that's, you know, it's but what you do is, you know, that's
And don't forget tomorrow
Good
on
for the
Channel
prostate.
23 from 4 to 5.
It's becoming a habit.
My guest tomorrow is I want 20 minutes to myself because the budget's been passed. I want to talk about that.
yes.
And then the rest of the show, my guest will be John Heichel, who's running for
John Adam
Senate.
Heichel.
Senate.
John Adam Heichel, a great friend of QC News and IPM Nation.
And one
For
of our
those of you that-
sponsors.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for those of you that missed last week's Thursday show, it was a great show. My co-host became my co-host, and you wouldn't. I hope you saw it because he wasn't dry. He was so humorous. I mean,
You were wet.
it was a great
You were
show.
so wet.
Yes.
It was a great show. It was funny.
It was good. And by the
People
way,
commented and saying, "Why are you so dry on the Friday show?" And your response was, "I had some competition."
well, yeah, because on the Friday night show, there's a lot going on.
There is
so,
definitely a lot going on.
But the show that you do, the Thursday edition that you do, it's
little slower.
it's much. Well, there's
it's
more.
a lot different.
Right. There was a lot of room for me to talk, and by the way, you can listen to the podcast of that if you go to Will Let It Large Gone Global on IPMNation.com and go to the Thursday edition of the show. There's an audio podcast that you can download, put on your MP3 player, and treasure forever and ever.
Now here's the question.
And I hope that you do.
I thought that your podcast, if they had visual, they were allowed to see the visual as well.
In some cases,
Is that true
you
in
can.
my case?
The Thursday show, you can watch it live, and all the replay times are on there too.
On IPM Nation.
Yes, but you can't watch it on demand,
Okay.
unlike the Friday show.
That will happen because I'm thinking as of this week of putting it on disc and putting it on our channel.
Great, because
Because a lot of asked for it. A
Yeah.
lot of people who watch both say there is a difference.
right.
And not everybody has Channel 23 unless
Right.
they're in the Manchester area.
Well, that would be phenomenal because if you do that, then we can make it so that on IPMNation.com we can watch the show on demand as
That's
well.
another growth.
Yes.
That's another growth for us.
Yes. I have a growth right now. I need to see a doctor.
Take care of it.
I
I'm
will.
getting one right now, just sitting next to the two of you.
Yeah, it's
Really?
understandable.
Your head must be swelling.
I don't really.
Throbbing.
I don't really have a
Just don't
growth.
explode in front of us, okay?
I know.
I actually lost a growth in a way because I used to have a mole on my lower back, right on the belt line, and it fell off.
Really?
True
That's-
story.
That's a good thing, isn't
That
it?
can happen. That can
Of
happen.
course it can happen.
They
I
can
had
fall
one on
off.
my neck for years and never went away.
No. Well, they don't usually, but they can fall off. So if you have a mole, a little
If
health
you
advice.
find a mole, please send it to 814 Elm Street.
Yeah.
No, no, we don't want it
I need
here.
to. I need to
At
tape one
Connarton.
because I don't even have. There's like
Send
no
it to
mark or
Concord.
anything. Yeah, send it to Concord.
So you
The
mean it
address is
fell
on
and it
IPM
dried
Nation.
up. Obviously, if there's no more mark, it just healed itself.
Right. Yeah. It went from being a regular little brown mole to just this like completely flat red splotch. At which point I called the dermatologist.
Yeah.
As you should.
And yes, and he had a bit of a chuckle when he looked at it. And he said, "Oh, your mole just fell off." Apparently that can
Actually, you're
happen.
lucky that it healed that way, because
Mm.
a lot of moles that fall off create quite a scab, and the scar stays
Yeah,
forever.
yeah. No, in my case, it just completely healed. You'd never know.
You're a good healer.
I am.
Heal thyself.
So what did you think about those snakes we had last Friday? And Mike grabbing one of them.
I was outside. All nauseous.
Oh,
And
you didn't see me handle the snake?
I missed
did.
that. I was
I saw
outside.
one snake go right for your crotch.
Oh,
Really?
you're funny.
No, I'm not funny. I saw it. It literally went straight for your crotch.
The old lady called me today, and she says,
The old lady.
"Weren't you afraid of that snake when you picked it up?" I says, "No. If I would have been, I wouldn't have touched it."
The old lady?
The old lady.
I haven't heard that term since watching reruns
And we
of
all get old. We're all getting
Sanford
older,
and Son.
unfortunately.
Oh, you mean literally an old lady?
Yes.
No, she's 92 years old. She's considered an older
92
lady.
years young. That's what she
Yeah.
is.
Well,
I
she
actually,
has a young mind.
we'll get into some politics in a minute, but that reminds me of something I heard once on the radio, a clip of this like World War II veteran, this really old guy. He's like, I don't know, we'll say 85 or whatever.
Sounds like Lionel.
And this reporter, yes, is that how old Lionel
He's
is?
86.
Okay. And this reporter is interviewing him. And the reporter, meaning well, but coming off kind of condescending, but doing that thing, where, he's asking the guy, so how old are you? And he's like, oh, I'm 85, and this crotchety old dude, veteran, and the reporter says, well, that's 85 years young, and the guy goes, blow it out your ass.
Oh my God.
He was having none of the, the
young thing, huh?
yeah, yeah. Which
Don't patronize me. You
I
son of a
like
bitch.
being
I fought for
old.
this
I
country.
earned this age.
that's right. That's right. You're at that age where you can cut your own hair,
That's right.
and you do, and it looks good. Have you thought about becoming a barber?
I've been cutting my hair since I was a kid.
If you can do your own hair that well,
I do a lot of people's hair, by the way.
Oh, you do? I
Yes.
didn't know that.
I do a lot of people who can't afford to get haircuts, and I don't charge them, of course. It's,
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's a volunteer thing.
Oh,
If it means they get a haircut, then it's free for me. That's the whole thing about it.
I go
They're
to
all clean.
I go to I don't go to Styling Souls, unfortunately, only because only because for about 10 years now I've been going to Troy, who is the guitar player in the Jinxed band I play in, and Troy is also the owner and proprietor of Scissors by Troy in Concord, and he does a phenomenal job. You would never know. I'm actually completely bald.
So
Oh, I
that's a
know.
mask you're wearing. Not a mask, that's a hairpiece. you're
No,
wearing.
no, I
Glued to your head.
no. It's just Troy is such a phenomenal barber. He's able to create the illusion that I have hair.
Yeah, he sprays that tan stuff.
No, I have 5 strands of hair left on my head, and Troy knows how to manipulate them in such a way
You're not a really
when he
big
gives me
guy,
a
are
haircut that look at me. I mean, it's like I look like I have almost a full head of hair.
It's true.
He's that good.
I'm sitting close to him. I can tell.
Yes, Scissors by Troy
Scissors by Troy.
in Concord, New Hampshire. He
Styling Souls.
that
in
good.
Concord.
Styling Souls.
I am a Styling Souls customer.
Yes.
Do you go to Concord now?
I did for their fundraising event. Yeah.
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
Good for
And
you.
when Christy comes down on Saturdays, I go visit her over at Salon J.
And the radio edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed is done from the Styling Souls studio.
There, the old home.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not an old home. It's not.
Well, I mean, that was your location.
Oh,
at
yes,
first,
yes.
In Manchester. But
Yes. We don't keep the old lady there. I thought that's what you meant.
We don't, huh?
No.
I'm all young. And I won't go any further and moist. But hey, what happened to your show
Well,
here
my,
tonight?
my girlfriend is younger
this
than
is
I.
really unleashed, isn't it?
What do you mean?
It's unleashed oh, I just noticed something.
What did you
Is
just
your
know?
head cut off?
Yes, I have been decapitated here live on television.
They can't see your hair. You really are bald.
Matt Connarton headed.
Let me know when you're okay.
Matt Connarton beheaded. Yes.
Will never be okay.
This is on. Okay, well, so I can sit up then. No, it needs more adjusting, Glenn. We're on
wait.
we're on a little bit of a delay, so.
You always need adjusting, don't you?
Yeah, I'm like that's why I'm always grabbing my crotch. I'm like one of those. What
But
do
you're
you?
Irish.
I
You didn't
wasn't
need to
going
adjust.
there.
No, I'm actually Italian, so I grab myself a lot. Anyway, there we go. Now we're politically incorrect, but you can see all of me. See, you can see that it really
You
does
see
look
this
like I have hair.
fabulous set.
Yes.
You should name Miss Piggy. Well, don't call her Miss Piggy. This is your political pig. So.
That's right. I do have a. That's right. Oh, I do have a large head though. I have a big
You do?
Irish melon.
I got this nice shiny forehead.
I got a big.
Is it a hard head or a soft head?
It's very hard.
I can hear it.
I've got a.
There's an echo in there. Is it empty?
Is it empty? Better not be. At this size, it better not be. There better be something in there. My goodness. All right.
Wow. All
Put you
right.
on the spot.
Take 2.
All right.
Yes.
Gentlemen, my 3 favorite subjects to discuss are religion, politics, and music. We talk a lot about politics on this show. We don't really talk much about music, but we do on some of the other programming on IPM. We don't really talk much about religion. But when religion and politics intersect, I am fascinated.
Really?
Yes. And Glenn has fallen asleep, so apparently
No.
Glenn's not as fascinated as
No,
I
it's been
am.
a long day.
It has been a long day, I understand. And what's especially wonderful is when religion and politics intersect in the way that it has, where we actually have a couple of concurrent stories, somewhat political stories going on that involve the church, the Catholic Church, the wonderful Catholic Church. Glenn, you're Catholic. How do you feel about the church?
I'm a Catholic and I practice my religion. The only thing is I found in a lot of religions, including the Catholic faith, a lot of the stuff is man-made. And my being an open-minded person, I do question those things. What's biblical is biblical, but what's, this penance thing on Lent used to be like Wednesdays and Fridays you couldn't eat meat during Lent. Now it's only on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. And well, why did that change? The Bible didn't change. It was man-made to begin with.
Yes,
Priests,
most of
long time ago, were allowed to be married when Catholicism
Yes.
first was formed. Now they can't. Well, the Bible didn't change that. Remember, the apostles.
Right.
A lot of the apostles were married.
Most of Catholicism is
So,
just made
yeah,
up.
it isn't just the Catholic faith. All the faiths are like that.
Chris, you were raised Catholic, right?
I was raised Catholic.
Now, how do you feel about the Catholic Church?
Oh, I think it's phony. I think I agree with Glenn. It's a lot of man-made
Well,
rules.
it's not that it makes it
laws.
phony, but it is man-made.
Right.
Yes.
That's any religion. I mean, the Baptists have their own. They have their.
Yes.
The Mormons. Every.
They all have
religion
their own
has-
completely arbitrary rules, and that's why. Look, I'm not an atheist, but I do think organized religion generally is silly.
Yes.
You think
And
it's silly? I'm not laughing.
I would
think it's
say
very silly.
the closest
do.
I would describe myself as closest to agnostic. I
Yeah.
look for facts when trying to view things in this world. I look for facts. Science is typically my answer that I turn to.
science, heresy. You're not supposed to believe in science. I'll tell you what. Today it's science. Tomorrow it's Sharia law.
Yeah, well, I will tell you one thing about the Catholic faith. In Europe, they actually have two saints that they recognize, and Rome doesn't, and we don't here in America, but they do in most of Europe. And those two saints
They
were
go marching in.
they were hung for being gay, and they're saints.
Yeah, they were.
Yes.
They were hanged. Hung is something completely.
Hung is something else, which we won't discuss on this show because it's before 9
Well, it's
p.m.
a past thing, so you were hung.
If you know what I
Hanged.
mean, hanged.
Really?
The proper term
It must
is
be
hanged.
the French in me.
It's
again.
it's the French in you. I was gonna say if I didn't know better, I think you were French.
Oui, monsieur.
Oui, oui, poo poo.
Oh my God.
Oh.
you.
Gerard Depardieu. That's about all the French I know.
Shut the window.
French fries.
Blue jeans.
Anyway,
That's how they say it in France.
And you sure they're blue jeans and not
Blue
black
jeans.
jeans? And
Blue
now they
jeans.
make them black?
forever in blue jeans.
You're
Forever in blue jeans. I like Neil Diamond. I'll admit it. Think what you will.
We better start your show.
It's
Yes.
a judgment-free zone.
Yes. We're being a little silly this evening
Yeah.
because once we really get into these issues, I'm getting a text
Yeah,
that
stop being silly.
and unfortunately it has nothing to
Text about?
nothing directly to do with the show.
Okay.
So more about Neil Diamond. I think he is the Jewish Elvis. I think he is just phenomenal.
Yes, but thinner.
Yes,
Um,
and alive.
yes, yes. I basically view the Catholic Church as a haven for gay pedophiles. That's my.
I'm sorry. That's a big pet peeve. You cannot tell me that these pedophiles, all these priests were gay. First of all, in our national, in Washington D.C.,
There's plenty of gay pedophiles.
no, they have statistics, and the statistics are, and on the national level, that most of your pedophiles, 95% are white,
Yes.
single males who didn't have brothers and sisters. There were single
Right.
siblings, and so that's baloney.
Oh, I'm not saying they're all
For
gay.
the church to say that they were all gay. First of all, the church is against gays. So why
Right.
would they encourage gay
Well, I'm
priests?
sure they're certainly against pedophilia as well.
I would
but
hope
they still do it.
So, but they were covering it up for the longest time.
There's one,
Yes.
in my mind, completely simple solution, which is to let the priests marry.
Yes, I've always said that.
Absolutely. A
And it's
lot
too bad
of
because
Catholics
years ago,
think that.
thousands of years ago, they were married.
Thousands of years ago, there also used to be female priests.
Yes.
Yes.
And
well,
but
I don't know about the Catholic faith. There are still female priests in some
There was at
religions.
least one female pope.
In the Catholic faith.
Yes, about 500 or 600
Hmm.
A.D.
Do you remember her name?
I don't remember.
We gotta
her name.
look that up. That's
Yeah,
something
there
to
was-
really tell the couple.
There
Wow.
was one.
let me see if I can find it.
You're gonna shake up the world there.
There's a great book, by the way.
Oh, the Catholic Church does not
Wonders?
want to admit that there is.
They never would, of course.
Female well, really? That's
Female
the first
pope?
one that comes
There's
up.
a
When you do a search for female,
Pope John.
female circumcision
Joan.
is the
Pope-
first item.
Pope Joan was the name of the female.
Oh, 13th century. I had
13th
my
century.
time off.
I'm bummed she has such a generic name. I was hoping it would
Yeah.
be at least, Pope Joan the Fifth or something, but I guess that wouldn't make sense if
Penelope.
there was
In
only
the
one.
Middle Ages.
Pope
Yes.
Penelope.
There's a great book. I can't remember. Let me see if I can find the author. The name of the book is Babylon Mystery Religion.
So we've come a long way.
And
haven't
it,
we? We've gone backwards.
Yeah, we haven't. Babylon Mystery Religion. It talks about how Catholicism is really just a pagan religion because so much of it is a book published.
What do you have against pagans?
Well, you know who talks
Ralph-
about that?
Ralph Woodrow? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Chris. I'm just trying to find the name of the author.
He's a comedian, but who he does talk about in several of his acts is Eddie Izzard. Describes how many of the religious holidays that the Catholics celebrate are based off of pagan traditions. For
Yes.
instance, why isn't Easter celebrated the same day every year? Why do they have to pick?
But Chris, if you really know your Catholic religion, so you're raised that way, when the religion first was formed, their biggest competition were the pagan religion. So it makes sense.
And December 25th is not the birth of Christ. The
Never
birth
was.
of Christ probably would have been somewhere around July or August.
Actually, it was in January. Remember, it was in the Middle East, so
Really?
they
You,
don't
you,
have-
oh, you were there. That's right.
I wasn't there, but it
What was the
wasn't
weather
in-
like?
There was no snow. There's no snow up there anyway. It's in Babylon.
Did you have, was QCE News around then?
No,
Oh,
I don't
that's-
think so.
That's too bad. It'd be nice.
IPM
No.
Nation was, I'm told.
I
No.
wish.
How
That'd be-
old are
That'd
you?
be awesome. Well, I'm a vampire. I'm thousands of years
See,
old.
he's not as old as Jesus. You are. There's.
Oh no, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
I'm very young,
hmm
young and hot.
Yes.
So go on.
The name of
I had
the
to pick one.
the name of the author is Ralph Woodrow. Babylon Mystery Religion. Anyway, it talks about a lot of the paganism and Catholicism. And by the way, I know that one of the things that people get defensive about when I make my comment about the pedophiles in the church is people say, well, it's not all Catholic priests, so it's unfair to say that. I understand that. It might be 1% of Catholic priests that diddle little boys. But here's the problem. You have the priests that do this, and then you have this. It's kind of like the mob. I understand there's no such thing as the mob. But my apologies to my Italian friends. Don't kill me. But you have the mob, which aids and abets and protects its own, right? Well, it's the same thing with the Catholic Church. You have these few, maybe very few priests who actually do this, but then you have this entire organization around them that
Covers it up.
covers it up,
they
moves
did
them
at the
around.
time.
Well,
Yes.
both are from Italy.
They did at the time.
Good point. Yes, good point.
What
So,
did you say about Italy?
I said both are from Italy. The
Yeah,
mob
the
is
mob
the
is-
mafia is born from Italy, and
Well
the
trained,
Vatican is
huh?
located
yes,
in Italy. So
yes. So,
learn, yeah.
by the way, the chat room is open if anyone wants to say something. I know we're saying some
Is Skype
controversial
open?
things. Skype is open too. IPM Nation, if you'd like to communicate with us via Skype or text us at
It doesn't look-
603-344-6491.
It doesn't look like Pope Joan to me.
No, that's not Pope Joan.
Sorry,
That's
Pope Benedict.
Have you ever seen a picture of Pope Joan?
no.
Do we know where she's buried?
I could not think of a smart ass from there.
Probably not around here.
I would think
Otherwise,
not.
I'd say we should go there and dig her up, and we could see what
you're
she looks
What's
like.
Pope Joan Rivers?
Pope Joan.
All right.
Rivers.
Let me talk
about the church.
A couple stories that have emerged. Sister Simone Campbell is getting a lot of criticism right now from the church.
Hey, where's she from?
She is
She's
from.
located?
She has. I'm not sure exactly where she's from. She has an organization called Network. Basically, let me give you a little background on how the hierarchy in the church works politically, and it can be broken down very simply. Priests and bishops and whomever else,
Cardinals.
the males in the church tend to be, if they take a political position, they tend to be conservatives. They tend to be Republicans. females in the church, nuns, sisters, whatever you want to call them, and I'm speaking specifically about the Catholics, tend to be Democrats. They tend to be liberals. Not that they're liberal on everything. I'm sure most of them are pro-life. I don't imagine any member of the clergy supporting abortion. But they tend to be liberal, and they tend to believe in things like social justice and whatnot. We'll get into some of the specifics here in a moment, because there's a couple people, members of the Catholic Church, females, who are in trouble. But this is the thing that I don't understand about Christianity politically. Christians, a lot of hardcore, serious Christians, evangelical Christians, conservatives, conservative thinkers, tend to be Republicans. They tend to be conservative Republicans. Now, we're all independents here. I'd be interested to hear if you guys would agree with this statement, but I feel that one of the key tenets of conservatism, not that a conservative would put it this way, but I've always felt that one of the tenets of conservatism is as little compassion as possible for other human beings. And the way this translates politically is, conservatives believe that anyone who is getting any kind of government assistance, any kind of public assistance, doesn't deserve it because they're lazy, or they made some kind of life mistakes and it's their own fault. And a lot of conservatives, they're almost libertarian in their thinking. They don't believe that we should have unemployment insurance, for example, which is why on the very first episode ever of Matt Connarton Unleashed, I spent about 10 minutes making fun of Republicans who collect unemployment, because not that I want to laugh at anyone who's having a hard time, but I just think it's so unbelievably hypocritical, and I think it's actually funny that Republicans who collect unemployment are who consider themselves to be diehard committed Republicans and conservatives. It's like they're oblivious to the fact that they belong to a political party that actually hates them, because the Republican Party, if you're collecting unemployment or if you're on welfare or anything, the Republican Party hates you. They look at you as being a leech and a loser, and they think that you suck as an American and as a human being. That is the Republican conservative attitude. If you're having a hard time, it's your fault. Even in a tough economy. Oh, you lost your job and you have a family to support. Well, you shouldn't rely on the government for that. Oh, there are no jobs? Well, go live in a cardboard box and too bad for you. That is the attitude. So I've never understood why so many conservative Republicans, or so many Christians, are conservative Republicans, because conservatism is so devoid of any compassion for human beings who are having a hard time, who are struggling. You're never going to literally hear these people say, oh, you're having a hard time, well, too bad for you, go live on the street. But that is the attitude. And they think, generally, as far as I can tell, that because some people abuse the system, because there is some fraud in the system, that means that everybody abuses the system. And that everybody who's collecting, and even if it's just a short-term help from the government, that you're all losers for doing so. And what I like and respect about these nuns, about the female clergy in the Catholic Church, is that they are interested in policies that actually sound like they're in line with this guy that we have all heard of named Jesus Christ, who seem to be very interested. I haven't looked at a Bible in a long time, but I get the impression that Christ was very interested in things like taking care of the less fortunate, taking care of people who were in trouble, who needed help. Poor people.
He was.
Yes, and
poor people, sick people.
Yes, sick people. Jesus Christ was about compassion and love and empathy. And it's so weird to me. And I put it that way because it really is baffling to me. I've never understood why so many Christians are conservative Republicans. I understand why you guys are pro-life, and I understand some of your positions, but the lack of compassion in conservative ideology, it just staggers me. And there's other inconsistencies too. Pro-death penalty Christians, absolutely baffle my mind
Thou shalt not
for this.
kill.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, I'm sorry, but I cannot imagine that Jesus Christ, and again, you guys call yourself Christians, I can't imagine that Jesus Christ, not the version of Christ I learned about in the Bible, would be okay with executing people.
A man who was put to death.
Yeah, exactly,
Right.
yes.
Actually,
Put to death by the government.
Actually, it's Jesus Christ in one of his marches or his followers, where the lady who was a prostitute and they were all throwing her rocks, and he's got there and he says, "Who are you to throw the first rock without sin?"
Yes. He among you who is
And
not
she
who is
asked
without
for
sin,
forgiveness,
cast the
and
first
he gave
stone.
her forgiveness.
Yes.
So, and doesn't the church say you're supposed to hate the sin, love the sinner?
Yes.
And lately, there's a lot
No,
of
hate
hate
the-
mongering out
Hate the
there.
game, don't hate the player. Oh, that's something else.
That's something
Hate the
else.
player, don't hate. No,
Yeah.
no, don't hate the player, hate the
There's
game.
a-
Yeah.
I find that there's a lot of new hatred being geared to a lot of these people lately.
Mhm.
It's
Yes.
really
There's a
coming
lot
out.
of hatred.
Yes.
It's really coming out.
Yes.
We're going backwards, not forward.
Yes. But these nuns within the church, they're very they tend to be, you know, and I myself am not a liberal. I hold some liberal positions proudly and some conservative positions as well. If you add it all up, I'm very moderate. I'm very centrist in my views. I'm probably on the 40-yard line, closer to left than to right. But I think the nuns have it right on this stuff, and it's part of what was the Paul Ryan, who of course is pushing the Ryan plan in the Senate. He spoke.
Which is Lord,
What was he gave a speech that?
not long ago.
Oh, at Georgetown was it Georgetown University?
Some university every year. Where was that? That's the one.
It was. Is that a Catholic university, Georgetown?
Yes, it is.
Okay. He gave a speech there. Basically, you know, the Ryan budget, of course, wants to, you know, cut the hell out of social programs because we can't afford them and this and that.
Raise taxes and lower their taxes.
Oh, of course. It's the same old,
1%.
you know, we'll lower taxes on rich people because because somehow that stimulates the economy, which has been proven over and over again to not be true. Reagan even knew that. The other, as a bit of a sidebar, the other big thing that baffles me about conservatives is Ronald Reagan is the big conservative hero. But if Ronald Reagan were here today and said some of the things that he said during his presidency, talking about tax fairness, you guys on the
Cutting out
right
the
would,
loopholes.
yeah, you guys on the right would crucify him. You'd call him a liberal.
Well, if
Tax fairness, that's class warfare.
If he was a candidate today for president,
Mhm.
there's no way he'd win. Not with the
No.
not on the Republican side.
Absolutely not. That is absolutely true. He couldn't. There's no way he would get anywhere near the Republican
So you
nomination.
talk about a
who
change.
recently agreed with that. What you've been saying.
Jeb Bush?
Jeb Bush.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Jeb.
he and his father, that Ronald Reagan and Jeb's father, would not be elected in today's
Yes.
Republican race.
That's how much they've changed
true.
to the far left or to the far right.
They keep moving further and further to the right, and
They are now at the end zone.
and it's and again, so Paul Ryan gives this speech, and it's the same old conservative Republican thing. Well, we gotta lower taxes on the rich, and
Raise
you know,
taxes on the poor
we need
and get rid
austerity.
of their services.
yeah, we can't afford to take care of poor people. We can't afford to take care of old people. We just can't afford it. I don't know what the idea is. I don't know if the Republicans are going to build maybe a giant crane that's going to scoop up all the poor people and the old people and dump them in a landfill or something.
I love that game.
I'm not sure what the end game is here, guys, but and Paul Ryan has taken some criticism for this. Of course, the males in the Catholic Church love it, you know, because they're Republicans, and so they ultimately they're going to choose their ideology over what Christ said, which is weird, but the nuns get it. The women in the church seem to get it, and a lot of them have been very critical of Paul Ryan and his speech, saying you can't just throw the poor people, especially in a climate where, you know, I used to think it was just a cliche when people would say, oh, you know, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. I used to just think that was something that people who were economically or financially frustrated would say. Just, you know, something you say when you're wrapping up a political conversation and you don't know what else to say. Oh, well, you know, what are you going to do? The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, whatever. Have a nice day. Turns out it's true. If you look at statistics, if you look at some numbers, if you look at some graphs, It's 100% true. The rich do
That
get
is-
richer, the poor do get poorer
That
over the
is truer
decades.
today than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it just gets worse and worse. There really is an income disparity. Now, I know Republicans might hear me say that, class warfare, he's engaging in class warfare. Because if you even acknowledge that there's any such thing as income disparity, then you're engaging in class warfare. That's,
What bothers me is why did they declare that they're going to take care of the middle class when they're actually getting rid of the middle class?
the middle class is shrinking in this country. Absolutely.
And
It's
not-
very real.
And most of the middle class are not getting richer. Most of them are getting poorer.
Right, right. And I understand why so many, politically speaking, I do understand why so many conservative politicians don't care about or don't have the courage. Like Jeb Bush has been very courageous, I think, in his
Yes,
recent
absolutely.
comments,
Has.
taking his own party to
Very
task.
well spoken.
Yes, he's definitely the smart one
He
between
was
him and
the
his
smart
brother.
one in
Yes.
the family.
Yes, absolutely. The guy's growing on me the more I hear him lately. But
Watch out for that mold.
Jeb Bush, 2016.
yeah, we'll see. But where was I going? I derailed. I don't know.
Nuns.
I don't know. Oh no, you know what I was? Well, yeah, all right. We'll stick with the. I had something else and it fell out of my brain. So we have one of the women who has been getting into some trouble and has been taken to task by the hierarchy, the male hierarchy in the church, is Sister Simone Campbell. And Sister
How high
Simone
is she in
Campbell.
the nuns? In the hierarchy of the nuns.
That I'm not sure about.
Sure.
But let me read you quickly this article, and this is from a website called ChristianPost.com. This is the most recent update I could find. Sister Simone Campbell, executive director of Network, a group founded by 47 Catholic sisters that speaks out on social justice issues. And by the way, I don't know if you guys have ever heard Sean Hannity say the phrase social justice. He says it like it's an obscenity. Social justice. He sneers about it. I know, what a horrible thing. How could any good Christian Republican want anything to do with social justice? Anyway, she has pushed back against the Vatican's criticism of U.S. nuns holding liberal views, saying they have been more than faithful to the gospel. Sister Simone Campbell is saying that she has been faithful to the gospel as well as the other nuns. The Vatican officially reprimanded the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, the largest group of Catholic nuns in the U.S., and with whom the network is associated, for, quote, serious doctrinal problems, including radical feminist themes incompatible with the Catholic faith, unquote. When asked by host Stephen Colbert on Monday's edition of the Colbert Report about accusations by the Vatican that the nuns have been diverging from conservative Roman Catholic Church doctrine, Sister Campbell replied, actually, what I'll admit is that we're faithful to the gospel. We work every day to live as Jesus did in relationship with those in the margins of our society. That's all we do, unquote. In other words, she and the other nuns have the temerity to actually give a shit about poor people. Imagine that.
How dare
How horrible. There's no room for that in the Catholic Church. The article goes on, in its report, the Vatican praised the U.S. Catholic nuns for their social work, but focused on their stances that go against traditional church teachings, such as their defense of homosexuality. Oh, they dare not to hate gay people. Imagine that. That's terrible, too. Support of President Barack Obama's overhaul of health care that mandates contraceptive coverage for religious institutions, and for supporting the ordinance of women as bishops, a role traditionally held by men. Oh, challenging their chauvinism. How terrible. I'm stunned, Sister Campbell said at the time in response to the report. She added, I would imagine that in our healthcare letter that it was their healthcare letter that made them mad. We haven't violated any teaching. We have just been raising questions and interpreting policies, or politics rather. There's a little bit more here. The Vatican's warnings have not distracted Network from what it positions as its primary goal, which is helping the poor in the country. It is planning a bus tour around the U.S., visiting states like Iowa, Wisconsin, etc. Quote, we have an obligation, not just a legal obligation, but a moral obligation to do something about it. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed something here. Well, let me skip ahead.
They're going to do the tour bus to protest federal budget.
Oh, okay,
cuts.
okay,
That's-
that Paul Ryan
Yes.
proposes, yes. In a press release, the sisters say they, quote, see the suffering of people in poverty on a daily basis, unquote, and that Ryan's budget cuts will undermine the food stamp program, drive seniors into poverty, give large tax breaks to the wealthy at the expense of struggling families, and drastically cut funding for health insurance programs for low-income people, causing millions to lose access to health care. Oh yeah, I'm sure Christ would approve of all of that, by the way. Quote, we're stopping at Congress's office and congressional offices of people who voted for the House budget proposed by Congressman Ryan, and that budget undermines the whole fabric of our society, and people don't know it. We want to educate people about Congress and make sure that they push back against hijacking our nation. It is the least we can do for people who are suffering in this economy, that they are left out, that are pushed to the margins. Unquote. She stressed that despite the recent controversy surrounding the nuns and the Vatican, the sisters' most important mission remains helping the poor and those in need. Oh, again, how dare they? Quote, you know, there is enough to go around if we can only share. It's this American ideal that we should hoard and hold on to the individual things that we have. Jesus broke the bread and said to everybody, eat and be filled. And there was enough, and they shared. Unquote. So, I think she's got it right. And I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts?
I think she does have it right. For example, right now in New York City, there are 43,000 homeless people.
Mm-hmm.
There are about to be 60-something thousand in the next month because the government of New York has all of a sudden decided that instead of spending $10,000 a year on the poorest people per person, they would rather get rid of their services, put them on the street, and it'll cost the government instead $40,000. Talk about inefficiency. So here you have a lady who's in an apartment that pays $50 a month or $100 a month, and she has a child, but the child is fed, goes to school, is taken care of, and all of a sudden they're going to put him back on the street because the rent all of a sudden is $1,000, no warning. And if you don't pay the rent, you get evicted. Well, if you only make a couple of $100 a month, how do you turn that into $1,000? They're not Jesus Christ.
Right. Right. Well, you know, too, a lot of conservatives have this idea that if you're on any kind of government assistance, that you're living large, that you're not only leeching off the system, but you're just getting paid all
Does
this
that apply
money.
to the Republicans that are on the same systems? There are some.
There are some. Well, like I said, they're oblivious to their own hypocrisy. What do you think, Chris? Any thoughts?
My thoughts would be the Catholic Church is made of a lot of money, despite
Yes.
when they go to
Like law?
despite when they go to court or their lawsuits brought up against them, and they say, "Oh, well, we're going to have to take this out of this, or we're going to have to close this seminary, and you're causing us all this harm." No, the Vatican has a lot of money, a lot, and the Catholic Church has found a way to take their morals, their values, their decency, and interpret the Bible into any which way that they see fit.
Yes.
To make a moral population, a moral society. And Catholics, if I recall, is still the biggest sect in this country. In the world.
Yeah.
That said, Republicans love money. They do. So what are they going to do? They're going to pander to the Catholic Church in order to get their money for their campaigns, for their donorship, for their lobbies. We're going to say, let's not do the contraceptives for women because that's what the Catholic Church says. It's sort of like advertising for the Catholic Church, like Coca-Cola, ka-ching, can I get my money right now? That's pretty much what it is, because a real conservative Republican would truly focus on one thing, which is smaller government. Smaller government means nothing about morals or decency. It's the fact that we want to get the government out of our bedrooms, out of our private lives. So now you're mixing the two right into the American faces, right into our faces. You're mixing these two things that you want smaller government, but you don't, because now you're going to focus on these morals and things like putting contraceptives. Oh God, no, that. Despite the fact that 99% of women, and what the hell do women know, say that they want free contraceptives, but
Right.
the Catholic Church says no. We're going to go with what they say.
Right.
And what's going to
So-
happen to diseases if we get rid of contraceptives? Contraceptives.
Oh, they don't
It's
think about
gonna
that.
go the
No,
They
exact
just think that they're
opposite.
sluts and whores.
Right.
We're
Right.
going backwards as an American society.
And Sister
Mm-hmm.
Campbell, huh, what is that? What does she know? She's crazy. She's a woman. They make
Right,
70.
exactly.
They still make
That's
70
the
cents to
attitude.
the dollar.
Yeah, that's the
Supposed to
attitude.
follow the man's world, right?
Probably not Sister Campbell. She probably is not on a salary, but to the women in this country who are still making
Yeah.
70 cents to the dollar.
Well,
Ditzy broad.
Well, let's go to the other rabble rouser, the other female member.
Before you do that,
Oh yes.
Congress just passed last week. There was a bill on equalizing pay for equal work, male or female,
Mhm.
and the Republicans voted against that in a large majority, which again goes to show where their agenda is. They do not want to equalize anything.
Money, 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 money.
Yeah. Let's there's another nun who this isn't about social justice. This gets a little. This might make a few people blush. This part, but
Blush.
I'm getting the vapors.
yes. All right, this is on Huffington Post, which means it originally came from somewhere else. In this case, the Associated Press from Vatican City. The Vatican on Monday sharply criticized a book on sexuality written by a prominent American nun, saying it contradicted church teaching on issues like masturbation, homosexuality, and marriage, and that its author had a defective understanding of Catholic theology.
I
Was
just
the
have to say.
author?
I
Oh,
just have
we're
to
getting
say,
to that.
2 out of
Okay.
3 ain't bad.
That's right. The Vatican's Orthodoxy office said the book Just Love, a Framework for Christian Sexual Ethics by Sister Margaret Farley, a member of the Sisters of Mercy religious order and emeritus professor of Christian ethics at Yale Divinity School, posed grave harm to the faithful. Yes, because anytime you challenge the orthodoxy of the church, you're not supposed to ask questions. You're posing grave harm by questioning anything. Just shut up and believe what we tell you to believe.
You're supposed to adore and obey.
Yes. Sorry I keep editorializing, but it's hard not to. It's because I'm unleashed. That's why the show's called Unleashed.
It's true.
I wish the show were in 3D, so it would seem like I'm unleashed right at you.
Good thing you can't jump to that camera.
I know, right? The Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith said that in the 2006 book, Farley either ignored church teaching on core issues of human sexuality or treated it as merely an opinion among many. Farley said Monday she never intended the book to reflect current official Catholic teaching. Rather, she said, she wrote it to explore sexuality via various religious traditions, theological resources, and human experience. The Farley critique, signed by the American head of the congregation, Cardinal William Levada, comes amid the Vatican's recent crackdown on the largest umbrella group of American sisters. But they're really going after the nuns. I wonder what that's about.
Women.
A war on women?
Because they have the right answers. They're on the right spot,
Right,
and they need to shut them down.
Men don't want to be challenged. The Vatican last month essentially imposed martial law on the Leadership Conference of Women Religious, accusing it of undermining church teaching and imposing certain radical feminist themes that were incompatible with Catholicism. In other words, get back in the kitchen.
Shut up and make me a sandwich.
Again, I wish this was in 3D.
Cupcake.
It ordered a full-scale overhaul of the group and appointed 3 bishops to carry it out. The crackdown on Farley, a top American theologian, will likely fuel greater resentment at Rome among more liberal-minded American sisters. The Vatican examination of the book began in 2010 and involved seeking Farley's responses to its concerns. After her replies failed to satisfy the congregation, it moved to a full-fledged examination in cases of urgency that concluded December 14th. That sounds very official. Pope Benedict approved the decision last March and ordered the decision published. In its statement, the Vatican singled out specific problems in Farley's book, which it said, quote, affirms positions that are in direct contradiction with Catholic teaching in the field of sexual morality, unquote.
I'm just going to stop you there. With Catholic teaching, as opposed to saying direct contradiction with Christ's teaching.
Right.
So they have to put it at I think legally they have to say that it's their own teaching and not that of their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
It is an important distinction. It's not like Christ talked about any of this, because I don't think he did.
Nope.
Farley, for example, writes that masturbation doesn't raise any moral problems and can actually help relationships rather than hinder them.
Here, here.
The Vatican asserted that according to church teaching, quote, masturbation is an intrinsically and gravely disordered action, unquote. What does that even mean?
I don't know, but I enjoy it.
It's good for the prostate.
That's what they say.
I was told that by a medical professional, Glenn R.J. Willett.
I agree.
Science over religion? You're talking horseshit.
I know, that's crazy. Farley wrote that homosexual people, as well as their activities, should be respected. Wow, respecting everyone.
Stars.
Church teaching holds that gays should be respected, but that homosexual acts are intrinsically disordered. There's that phrase again. I've known lots of very organized gay people. I don't know. On gay marriage, Farley said legal recognition of gay marriage can help transform the stigmatization of gays. Levada wrote back that approving gay marriage would not only signal approval of deviant behavior, but would obscure the value of traditional marriage between man and woman in society.
And is it traditional between man and woman that they get divorced in the large percentages that they do? And we're talking marriage between a man and a woman here.
It's okay. Those are straight divorces.
Oh,
so it's okay.
so they don't count.
Right, so that's okay.
There's no morality when it comes
Right,
to that.
right. No, of course not. Well, they're straight, so they're not.
Exactly.
They're not going to hell. The
I
principle.
don't think it has anything to do with being straight or homosexual. It has a lot to do with with the religious teaching.
Yeah, but remember, Glenn. These people think that you choose to be gay, or in your case, choose to be bi.
I guess
true.
could
It's
we
the best
not-
choice I ever made.
Could we not turn that around and say that people choose to be straight? I mean, it's not.
Well, that's why the whole thing is so asinine. This idea that anyone chooses to be gay.
Yeah.
That would mean that any straight person could at any time just say, "Hey, this whole gay thing sounds kind of interesting. I think tomorrow I'll be gay for a day."
You know what is a choice, though?
What?
Your religion.
Good point. Very good point.
Or normally you're raised that way.
You can choose to
Well, you can when you get old
leave
enough.
it
Of course.
when you get old enough.
That's right. People convert. Levada went on to say the principles of respect and non-discrimination cannot be invoked to support legal recognition of homosexual unions, unquote. In her statement, Farley said she had aimed to propose a framework for sexual ethics that uses a criteria of justice in evaluating sexual relations. She acknowledged that her responses to certain issues do depart from traditional doctrine, but said that they nonetheless were coherent in theological and moral traditions. Quote, the fact that Christians and others have achieved new knowledge and deeper understanding of human embodiment and sexuality seems to require that we at least examine the possibility of development in sexual ethics, unquote. In other words, that perhaps that, in the modern era, people have figured out that gay people don't choose to be gay. So, she said she appreciated the Vatican's work, but lamented that her positions weren't reflected in the congregation's final document. The Reverend James Martin, a liberal-leaning Jesuit author, said the notification will sadden many Catholic theologians who consider Farley a mentor. Quote, it will also inevitably raise strong emotions among those who already feel buffeted by the Vatican's apostolic visitation of Catholic sisters in the U.S. and its intervention into the LCWR, said Martin, who has been a vocal supporter of U.S. sisters since the Vatican crackdown. Farley has received 11 honorary degrees over her lifetime, is a past president of the Society of Christian Ethics and the Catholic Theological Society of America, and won an award in 2008 for her book, Just Love. That said, Farley doesn't identify herself as a member of the Sisters of Mercy on either her official Yale biography or on the book's cover. The Vatican criticism, while seemingly harsh, is rather tame. It's not a formal censure of Farley herself, but just the book. And given that Farley doesn't teach at a Catholic university, the Vatican could not forbid her from teaching, as it has done with other Catholic theologians who don't toe the Vatican line. But the Vatican did seem indirectly to hold Farley's superiors to blame for having allowed her to voice such positions that are so contrary to church doctrine. That's like she has a mind of her own or something. Not terrible. The Vatican notification said that it was saddened that, quote, a member of an institute of consecrated life would do such a thing. Farley's superior, Sister Pat McDermott, defended Farley and said she was deeply saddened that the Vatican had criticized, quote, the significant pastoral and ethical thinking that are represented in her book. So, another, as I say, another female rabble-rouser in the Catholic Church who dares question the men. Any, you guys have any thoughts before we wrap up?
Same thoughts as before.
This hour goes by quickly. Glenn?
Hey, Jiggles.
No
I just
change.
stopped writing a book.
Is that what you're calling it? A jiggle?
Oh,
Goodness.
that's awesome.
You would know.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I love it when religion and politics intersect in this way, because as frustrating as it is, and as angry as it makes me, so I'm unleashed.
3D.
Yes. It's also fascinating to talk about and discuss and dissect. And I'm sure some people are watching this and very angry with me right now, including my dad if he ever sees this show. He's a devout Catholic. But my dad, despite being a devout Catholic, he was very liberal when I was being raised. He's more conservative now, but because, you know, he believed in, you know, taking care of poor people and stuff like that. Stuff that guy Jesus, you know, was big on. Anyway. Glenn, where were we, what's going on Friday again before we wrap up?
On Friday from 7 to 8 is a short version of We'll Let It Large, and then from 8:15 to 1:15 we're going to be at Shaskeen. In fact, We'll Let It Large will be filmed at Shaskeen. So Shaskeen on this Friday night from 7 p.m. until 1:15 a.m.
Eastern Daylight Time.
Yes, and
Come
then
on down if you're in the area.
Saturday, we're leaving the city of Manchester at 7 a.m. and we will be producing live programming in Province, Rhode Island from noon until about 6 p.m. and then go off the air for about an hour and a half, and then at 8:30 till 9:30 we will be doing a night parade that is all the floats are lit.
And Providence is controlled by the mob. Is that true?
Is it? Well,
Parts of it, yes.
so they say. It's like a Chicago thing, you know?
Yeah.
But it's
Not
okay.
quite as big, but
Yeah.
But it's okay, because I'm just kidding. In reality, there is no
It's
such
okay.
thing as the
Speaking
mafia.
of which, one of the best mafia movies that I know of, or in my opinion, Goodfellas. Henry Hill passed away this week.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The character that Ray Liotta plays,
Actually,
who came
oh,
up with the book
yes.
Wise Guys.
Oh, no
Yes,
kidding. I did
yes.
not know that.
Yes.
Well, very interesting.
Sorry, just a random fact.
no,
And,
they actually they were talking about that this morning in the news.
Yes. And Chris, you want to plug your Sunday night show?
Yes, VE Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. on IPMNation.com/VE and QCNews.com. That's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. VE, I guess since it's coming up on 9 o'clock, we can say it's verbal ejaculation. It is currently, I think, the number 4 show on IPMNation.com.
Yes.
We are part of the number 1 Mansterdam channel. Give a nice shout out to those guys. They will
Yes.
be on TV 23 tonight at 11 p.m. and IPMNation.com, 11 p.m. Eastern. They're the great guys over in Amsterdam. So tune in. And yeah, that's about it.
All right.
And don't forget, On Demand is another show that we do on QC News, which IPM Nation carries, and it's called Mill City Teleproductions. It's
Yes.
concerts and theater. And there's another great episode that's going to happen this week, so keep watching.
Oh, very
it.
good.
Excellent.
Very good. All right, so I guess that's going to do it. Glenn, this is where we stall for a few seconds while you take us off the air. Glenn is also our
He's
engineer.
double duty.
Yes.
Triple duty. Cameraman,
Yes.
engineer, and co-host.
Check out his newspaper, the Queen City Examiner, soon to be the Queen City Capital Examiner, and at QCnews.com. And that's going to do it. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night.